still have to look at, who's your target customer? How do you find them? Why should they buy? And I always think about at the end of the year is looking at your current products and services that you offer. What's working, what's not, what's the profit of those products and services? Are there things that your customers have said, hey, maybe we should add this, or things that aren't selling, aren't doing as well? Kind of looking at that portfolio. And we're going to talk a little bit about, and then looking at what do you want to add for next year? Because there'll be new products and services that you want to continue to grow your business. And you need to start thinking about maybe you let some go or you scale down on some of them, but you need to replace them with something new, or you kind of build on that for 2024. All of those will then feed into Deb will talk then about engaging your customers, your content strategy, your marketing trends that you see for 2024. So we're going to take your products and services, really dial in on those, and then that will help inform your strategy and how you market to customers in 2024. So first thing we always want to look at is what's the specific problem you're trying to solve, and then how big is that problem for your customer? We're not talking about size of market share, but we're talking about specifically dialing in on what solution do you solve. And again, whether you have a product or service today, if you're looking at adding that or expanding your portfolio, you need to do this for every single time you do that. And you should also do it for your current offerings. Is it still solving the right problem? Have your customers changed? Are you serving different customers than you originally did in the beginning of your business? And then, or if you're adding products and services, what's that solution you want to solve for that customer? And then how big is that problem for that customer? We always talk about in our workshops, you need to be solving a pain or a gain. So you need to be solving a pain for that customer or providing a gain or a benefit for them that they don't have today. So, and then the question too is how big is that? Because I've talked sometimes with when they develop products or services and you want to add something to your portfolio, and then you talk to customers and they're like, yeah, that's kind of annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. Well, that's not really one you should go after because they won't pay to solve that problem. It's not big enough problem from them. So you have to make sure that how big is that pain point or how big of a gain will you give to that target customer with that product or service offering. And the other things you need to think about with the problem is that it's not just um, like, oh, this is a problem for me, but you need to get to like the emotional aspects of that problem because we buy on emotion and then we justify it with logic. So it's gonna have to be something that's really like a problem from that customer from an emotional perspective. And then they go, oh, and then then I'll look at the specs and I'll look at the different comparison products to find which one's right. But it's got to have it just got to hit me with money, time, some emotional reason to be purchasing that product or service from you. And then you also need to look at what's out there in the market, because they're solving it today somehow. It may not be ideal, it may not be the best way. It may have a lot of limitations in how they're trying to solve the problem. So you need to see what's out there in the market. What are those customers trying to do today to solve that problem? And then also, if you're not solving a pain, what's that gain? Are you making your customers' lives better, easier, faster, quicker? I mean, there's got to be some reason why they need to, again, from an emotional perspective, want to purchase that service. And then I always think about looking at what success look like. What's the world or your customer's world look like before your solution, whether it's a product or a service? And then what does it look like after? What's that success for them? What's that transformation they're going to be getting from that product or service, from what they experience today to what your solution is going to provide? I'm going to talk a little bit about, here's a quick kind of sentence that you can kind of plug your product or solution into and kind of say, somebody asks you, well, how's this going to help me? Here's a quick way to reference that. My husband's a dog trainer, so we're going to use that as an example. So think about this. You help, who's the target customer you're looking at? What's the product or solution so they can achieve what's the success? That's like kind of, if you can distill your product or service down to that one sentence, that'll be gold. Because when anybody asks you about it, you're going to say, oh, I help. And my husband's a dog trainer. This might be one option for him. We help first time dog owners potty train their new puppy in 3 days so they can stop having accidents in the house. So it's very clear. It's not just all dog owners or anybody that owns a dog. It's first-time dog owners. Potty training is a big problem that they have with new puppies. And then what's the success look like is like, so they just stop having accidents in the house. I mean, that's a huge benefit. If I was a first-time dog owner and I don't realize, like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this not working? So that's a very targeted product or solution that I'm delivering as a dog trainer. The other thing to think about is your solution or your product or service is not only what is it and how, like that's what I just owners, it can't be just everybody that ever has a dog. It's very specific solution in solving that problem. And you have to think about how different is it going to be? What's uniquely valuable in your solution? Potty training in 3 days or less. It's not going to be 3 weeks and you're still having accidents in the house. I'm saying 3 days or less. What's the secret behind that? How are you different than other solutions in the market? All that, and Deb will talk about, these are important things to know because that's going to drive your messaging. And she's going to talk about how do you then take that messaging and deliver it out in your marketing. But you'll hear value proposition and unique selling proposition. Those kind of get used interchangeably, but that's really that's going to develop your messaging and how you go to market and how you talk about your products and services. So that messaging is why should they buy and why your product or service is different. The value proposition, again, you'll hear it interchangeably, but they're subtly different. But the value proposition is how are you going to solve that problem for the customer or improve? Is that pain or gain? What are you doing that's going to fix the problem? That's your value proposition. Your unique selling proposition is then how are you different than what's out there in the market? Because I guarantee you they're going to be searching before they buy your product or service. Last stat I saw was like almost 80% of people are searching online before they ever call you up or before they ever contact anybody. They're out there searching what's in the market. What are the solutions out there to me today? So you need to know how are you solving that customer's problem or improving their situation? And then what makes you different than the competition? What's your competitive advantage? These are some examples of a value prop. Again, short. It's like one sentence. It's a couple words. It is not a paragraph about how you solve. It's very targeted on that one thing. And knowing your customer makes a difference. So if you see the Lyft one, Lyft has two different customers. They have the drivers and then they have the actual consumers using their service. So this one is definitely aimed at the driver. Set your own hours, earn on your own terms. That's the value prop, why you should drive for Lyft. Again, they have a different value prop to the end user. It might be about how easy the app is to use or whatever that, or how quick and reliable the service is or something. But again, knowing your target customer lets you dial in why your product or service is going to benefit them. And then your USP is going to be what's different than the competition. And I love Death Wish coffee, world's strongest coffee. Now, if you say you're the world's strongest coffee, boy, you better back that up. And you're going to say, that's why I'm different than everybody else is no matter what, we're going to be the world's strongest coffee. And you have to deliver on that promise. So that's kind of that why we're different than everybody else. And then you have to deliver and make sure that that what you say you're going to deliver, you actually make good on that promise to the customer. The other one is who and where. So we talked a little bit about your target customer. Who is your solution designed for and where do you find them? That's one thing we talk about a lot is like, what is that customer value? And this is where you need to always, always, always be talking to consumers. That's market research never ends. It never stops and starts. It's a continuous process. And we want you to go beyond just the demographics, but to psychographics. And that's a fancy term for really it's about what are their emotional drivers? What are they struggling with? What are their lifestyle factors? It's beyond the woman in 30 to 40 years old, making $100,000 who's a professional with no kids. Like that's the demographics of where they sit, but the psychographics of they like to do these kind of hobbies. They belong to these charities. They, support. This is where they like to go out in the evenings, or this is type of restaurants they like to visit. So those kind of psychographics will help you dial in where you can find that target customer. You always need, there's two different ways you can look at this, and Deb will talk a little bit more about this, but you need to look at your existing customers. You need to be talking to them and asking them these questions, which is easier because you already have customers, but you should be, whether it's surveys, there's all different ways to get information from your existing customers. Where do they shop? Where do they get their information? Who do they trust? Is it all referrals? Well, then who are those key influencers or referral partners that you might reach out to? The other thing is looking at potential customers. So if you're adding a new product or service, or if you're thinking about expanding your portfolio, where those might be a little different set of customers, or maybe they're adjacent to your core customers and you're expanding into a different market. So where do they get their information? How do they know what to buy? Who do they trust with product or service recommendations? And finding out where they get that information to where they are will help you then find them to be able to market to them. There's all different ways. It depends on your industry and your product and service that you're offering, but there's all different ways to find your target customers, potential customers. Deb will probably cover this a little bit later, but social media groups, it's your Facebook groups. There's so many groups around a very niche topic or niche subject. I mean, if I was a first time, I'm sure there's a Facebook group for first time puppy owners where it's not somebody that's had a dog for 10 years and they're looking at, aging pets, but they're looking at, oh my gosh, this puppy is destroying my house. How do I stop this? So there's a group for that. There's associations, there's trade journals. If you sell to a business versus a consumer, I was just at a trade show this week. It is amazing. There's a trade show or an association for every type of market that there is. It was a trade show, and the one next to us was about docks, like docks for boats. The entire show was about docks. Like, really? Is there enough business? Yes, there is. If you're a B2B, that's where you want to be in that show. There's blogs, podcasts, articles, all sorts of things about where that are talking to your target customer. Webinars, workshops, product reviews on Amazon. Go in there and look at your competitors' products. See what people are talking about in their reviews. You'll find pain points in there. You'll find where this product doesn't work, or this, it's not off the 5 stars, or you'll find out what was great about this product. It's a way to kind of gather market research by looking at what customers are saying that could potentially be your customers. Conferences, events, surveys, polls. You can send out a quick survey on social media or even to your existing customers. Informational interviews are just really a quick, it could be a 5-minute, you could be, say I'm a dog trainer. Then I would maybe go to where the humane societies and they have like the adoption visits. Go and hang out there and listen to what customers are saying when they adopt a puppy or what they're looking for in a dog. You're not selling them anything. You're just doing like a 5-minute quick interview and saying, hey, have you been an owner before? What do you think? What are your concerns when you're first adopting a puppy in your house and you've never had a dog? Or, just kind of figuring out where their concerns or fears or they're not sure about. Just kind of asking those questions. And then think of adjacent businesses. If I was a dog trainer, I would talk to vets. I would talk to the shop owners of like pet stores. And I would talk to, it could be, anybody that kind of is around. There's now dog masseurs and there's dog therapy. There's therapy, there's all different things that you can kind of build around that might be adjacent businesses that you could talk to about, and that your target customer also buys products and services from that adjacent business, and you can work together on leveraging and marketing through those as well. And then nonprofit charities, they might be, if it's the Humane Society, if I'm a dog trainer, I should connect with my local Humane Society. Maybe I volunteer my services and I offer a free puppy 101 for everybody that adopts a new dog, a free 101 training class or something. And then you're getting into front of those target customers. I always want to say you want to do a competitive analysis. You need to know how your product stacks up to competition because they are researching the competition before they ever talk to you. So you need to know what makes your product or service different. That's that value prop and USP and that messaging. You need to be researching your product, comparing your products and services from a pricing standpoint and like a features and benefits, and kind of you can actually lay out what I always do is do a competitive landscape. It can be as simple as a spreadsheet or jotted down on paper. It can be fancy and pretty like these are, but it can be something very basic. You need to say, really, it's just a structured way of saying, here are the key things that I've identified matter to customers. Here's how I stack up, or my product or service stacks up to the competition. And you can do it with a product or service. You can start looking at, well, I offer these. The main competitors are kind of offering these. Here's kind of the and price ranges. Here's what, you know, I've heard that customers value. And you can kind of start looking at, maybe you have gaps in your line. Maybe you need to be maybe you have a differentiation point, but your target customer doesn't realize that you're different, or you need to lean in a certain one because you're hearing from your target customer that they really value X. Then you need to lean harder into that and show how you're different than the competitors. Because if you're just the same as, or me too, if I'm looking at it from a customer standpoint, I won't know why I should pick you. I won't. I may not. I may say, well, if there's no difference, I'll just go with company B because I can't figure out the difference between the two. So this will all feed into your messaging, as Dev will talk next about, your marketing, how you position yourself, how you message everything. You've got to build this kind of foundation and know who you're going after, how you're different, why it matters to the customer before you can then drive into your marketing messaging for next year. And with that, we're going to go to Dev.
Thanks, Sandy. I love listening to Sandy talk about this stuff because she's just so unbelievably knowledgeable about finding your target audience, which is the first step of any marketing plan. You could Google this up, down, and sideways, and regardless of where you land in Google and the interwebs, it's going to tell you you have to know your target audience before you do any marketing whatsoever. And any marketer is going to tell you that you need to know your target audience and your unique value proposition before you do any marketing. So I love listening to Sandy share all of her insights and expertise about this stuff because it really is the key to your success as a small business as you move forward with your 2024 marketing plan. So if everyone could use the chat for a hot minute, who has done a marketing plan for themselves in the past? Does anyone have one? Or does anyone has anyone tried to formulate one? Give me like a little bit of a pulse check here in the chat. Yes or no. Or is anyone too scared? If you're like really intimidated by the word marketing, say that too. I don't know how I got here in marketing, y'all. Like, it's very intimidating. Anyone want to chime in the chat? Doris? Yeah, okay. Got some peeps. We've explored it. We're afraid of it. How do we feel about it? Got it. Okay, working on it. Love it. You're at a good point. Just started. Okay, cool. So hopefully what we're going to do here today is, now that Sandy has walked you through the most important part of marketing, which is finding your target audience and defining your unique value proposition, we're going to focus on the next step in the process, which is, how do you engage with that target audience once you've found them? And more importantly, how do you convert them into customers, right? That's what we all want, right? We're growing our businesses. We need them to become our customers. So how do we communicate the unique value that we know we provide? How do we identify our shared pain points? How do we share that with our target audience and convert them into hopefully longtime loyal customers? And hopefully we can do this in a way that makes it feel a little bit more approachable. I like to say this often when working with SCORE clients, which is, marketing feels really intimidating. You look at the terms, you look at the words, there's all these messages you're seeing. If you just, randomly look up, how do I formulate a marketing plan? You're going to see a lot of terms that don't make a heck of a lot of sense for most of us. And I hope that we can drill this down into a way that feels really approachable and actionable for y'all as you move into your 2024 planning. So we're going to talk about reaching and engaging with your audience. And we're going to start with where, right? Now that Sandy's helped you get to a point where you've identified them, who they are, and your unique value proposition and your shared pain points with them. Now that she's helped you walk through that part of the process, where do I reach them, right? Where do I talk to them? So think about these elements as these are the platforms you're going to leverage to reach your target audience. And then the next step in this process is, how am I going to communicate with them, right? So think about this as the tools you're going to employ to communicate with them. This is your toolkit, this is your tool belt. This is a little bit more tactical. This is how you talk to them, how you engage with them. Things like podcasting, things like blogging, is it going to be digital? Is it going to be audio? Is it going to be through video? And you also have to think about who is communicating with your audience, right? Are you using yourself? Are you your brand identity for your product or service? Are you using a mascot like the Geico Gecko? Are you using a third-party spokesperson, right? You have to think about who is delivering this message and it might not always be the same every time. You can employ different delivery systems for your message, right? You can use user-generated content to have testimonials and things come directly from a customer. But you could have a mascot, you could have a spokesperson, or you could use yourself, right? It depends on how you've built your brand and how you want to build your brand moving forward. But these are the types of things you need to think about when thinking about not only where you're going to reach your target audience, but how you're going to communicate with your target audience. And then the final rung, and we're going to dive deep into this final rung on this ladder, but what are the messages you're going to deploy to your target audience? And I put in big red letters here, purposeful, for a reason. So the average person is exposed to more than 10,000 ads a day. You probably see that in your daily lives, right? You are exposed to so many competing messages. And the fact is that only about a quarter of them, or even less, are actually relevant to the person receiving the message. So if you think about that, you are going to build a content strategy, you're going to build out your content pillars, you're going to build out your content and marketing plan. And you have to know going into that process that you are one of 10,000 things your target customer is going to see in a day. So how do you stand out, and how do you make sure that you are part of that 25% or less that is actually relevant to your target customer? So just a couple of things to think about as we go through here. Your goal with your planning is really to grow, engage, and retain your customer, right? So if you're building your business, as some of you are, if you're just starting out, or if you've built your business and you've kind of started messing around with some marketing strategies and tactics, and you're just looking to give some focus to your plan, think about how you deploy that plan in a way that is aimed at either growing, engaging, or retaining, right? So these are the things we want to focus on when approaching our plan. And to Sandy's point earlier, key to all of this is making it clear. We put clear CTAs at the bottom, making it clear how you solve problems and address pain points for your target customer. Does anyone have any questions so far? Anything here that seems a little wonky? Feel free to go ahead and jump in if so. I will say, team, as we go through and we look at this, we're going to use an example. We're going to have some fun with this, but at the same time, think about how this relates to you and your specific business. The key to all of this, if this is your first time approaching a marketing plan, or if this is your first time really wanting to bring a strategic focus to your marketing efforts, the key to all of this is you really becoming aware of how you interact with the different brands, products, and services that you use in your daily life. So start to become really tuned in to how that podcast you always listen to, how they deliver marketing messages and ads through that podcast. Or when you're scrolling on social media in the morning or in the evening, how those messages are appearing, what messages are appearing, and how often you're seeing them. So consistency to all of this is important. Relationship building is important. And I promise this will become a much more streamlined and efficient process for you the more that you start to notice how you are interacting with brands and products and services on a daily basis.
Deb, we've got a couple of questions. The
Ooh.
first one is DJ Williams is asking call to action. Can you provide some specific examples?
Yeah, that's a great question, DJ. So CTAs, calls to action is what that stands for. But this could be as simple as sign up for my e-newsletter or download my ebook now. It doesn't just have to be book a session here or book me now or purchase now, right? This could be something like and comment below, right? Y'all probably see that a lot on Instagram or TikTok. Like and comment if you share this same view, or like and comment if you've ever been, what did I see the other day? Like a victim of your own dating choices. There's different ways that you can employ calls to action. And it doesn't always have to be purchase or buy. So start to think about, again, that grow, engage, or retain, right? So growing could be like share with a friend. That's a call to action. Like share this in your story. Engaging can be like or comment below. And then retain is more of a a purchase oriented call to action. I just saw another one pop up.
So
Lisa.
Deb, we've got one from Lori.
Yeah.
And she's asking, how do you engage people in person
Yeah.
to discuss
So
your services?
Lori, we are going to get to that.
Okay. And
And
there's one more.
sure.
How would you incorporate this in a fundraising campaign?
Yeah, that's a good one. So fundraising, which I actually come from a nonprofit background in my prior career. So fundraising is, you have to employ a lot of different marketing tactics to have a really successful fundraising campaign. And I don't know if we're talking about like fundraising for an organization or fundraising if you're talking about fundraising like venture capitalism for your business. But either way, I know when it comes to a business perspective and fundraising for your business or for funds to grow your business, you're going to have to get really clear about your business plan and your operations and your budget. Yeah. Okay, Sharon. I thought that might be the case. So I wanted to cover both. So you're actually what venture capitalists are looking for if you're looking to fundraise for your own business. You're going to have to really focus in on some of those resources that SCORE provides in building your business plan, looking at your margins, looking at your P&Ls, looking at your projections, how you do your financial planning. That upfront business operations part is going to be key from a venture capitalism standpoint. And if we're looking at a fundraising campaign from like a marketing standpoint or a nonprofit standpoint, if we're looking at raising funds for a cause, that's going to be a little bit different because you'll have to employ a lot of different tactics. I will say, Sharon, for the venture capitalism part of this, you want to have a really clear story. And going back to everything Sandy talked about in the beginning. Not only do you want to have a really clear story, you want to have a really clear reason why your unique value proposition is different from anything else on the market. And you want to be really clear about how you stand out from your competitors. That's what people are going to look at when you're looking for funding for your business, in addition to the operations and financials behind it. Cool, great questions, y'all. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide, please. Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about building a content strategy. And this in general, this is not necessarily different from a marketing strategy, but a lot of us use content. A lot of us are concerned about that messaging, about what we're saying. So now that we've talked about where we're going to say it and how we're going to say it and how we're going to deploy that messaging, now we're going to focus in on that. What do we want to say? How do we want to talk to our target audience, right? So your content strategy, think of this as your general plan for how you're going to achieve a specific marketing goal. So in this case, we're talking about connecting with our audience and establishing a relationship and retaining them as a customer, right? So any good content strategy, it's got a lot of parts, and again, there are some resources on this page. I don't want you to be overwhelmed by the resources. You are going to get these slides after the presentation, but there are a lot of different steps. You can look up a lot of different ways to build a content strategy, but they're all going to have a few things in common. Knowing your target audience, which Sandy has covered, knowing your unique value proposition, which Sandy has covered, and then building out goals, KPIs for yourself, like these key performance indicators. Oh, sorry. Guinness has strong feelings about KPIs. So building out goals, how you track against your goals, and then building out your messaging. So there's a lot of foundational things that actually happen in the course of building out your content strategy before you actually get to the content itself, which everyone gets excited, right? And wants to jump right into the content itself. But we have a lot of legwork to do before that. So defining your expertise, knowing your audience's pain points, as Sandy spoke about, aligning your products and services with your audience's pain points and challenges, and then discovering subtopics that you can create messaging based off those content pillars to really create a deeper connection with your audience. So that content strategy, you're finding your audience, you're setting goals, which we know, right, from all of our experience that goals need to be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Determining our KPIs. So this is how are we going to track our progress toward reaching these goals? And how are you going to define success in your marketing program? And then we get to the fun part of building these content pillars. And these content pillars help us determine what we're going to say to our audience. And on the next slide, we'll show an example of how to build out our content pillars. Set a budget if you have one, not yet, Lisa. Or Sandy. Set a budget if you have one, and it's okay if you don't, right? On one of those slides a few back, we talked about earned versus owned media a little bit on one of those slides. So it's okay if you don't have a budget, but if you do have budget to allocate, what are you going to allocate it to? And then you go into creating your content and a publishing schedule, and then distributing that content. I will say there are a couple important things to think about here when you're building out your content strategy. And I have this in my own notes in like big, bold letters. Don't forget about your feedback loops. And Sandy spoke about this when she talked about how to do competitive analysis, but also how to identify your target customers. don't forget about building in feedback loops to your content strategy. So this is making sure, an email if somebody has questions, or DM me for more info, or here's a survey. And remember, these surveys, they don't just have to be about your product, right? They could be about anything else. I want to learn more about you as my customer. Like, surveys can be about anything. They don't just have to be directly related to your product or someone's experience with your product specifically. So I want to make sure that comes through in building out a content strategy, because if you put all this content out here and you start to convert and you get sales from it, but you're not getting anything in return, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. So my big thing here, even to myself in big bold letters, is do not forget about your feedback loops. And when you're looking at your content strategy, really creating consistency and defining content pillars that focus on how you can establish rapport, how you can establish relationship, how you can establish your authority on a topic and demonstrate your expertise. You, at the end of the day, you want your audience to be able to identify with you, and know how you address their pain points and how you offer them solutions. So consistency, feedback loops, a couple of things to take into consideration when we build out our content strategy. But why, right? Why do we care about consistency? Why is this important? Why do I need to define my content pillars? Why should I spend time doing this, Dev? I get it. I'm asking you to do a lot of work to create a really focused plan. Here's why. The rule of 7 in marketing, and rules they can be flexible, but I will say, as soon as I say this, it's probably going to ring true for every single person on this webinar who buys a product or a service. The rule of 7 in marketing states that brands generally have to engage with a customer 7 times to earn the trust and business of that customer. This is based off data. I swear, I'm not just making this up. But you have to think about your target customer, think about the 10,000 messages a day that they are receiving, think about the less than 25% of those messages that are actually relevant to that customer, and then think about the fact that data shows that you have to engage with a target customer at least 7 times to earn their trust and business. So that's why we really want to talk about consistency in your messaging, and not just dropping content and dropping things out there once and thinking, oh, well, I said it, they have to know. They don't know. They didn't see it. They missed it. You have to target them again with that same message. So when putting together your content plan, think about consistency, think about your messaging, think about feedback loops. Also, think about how you can repurpose your messaging to create that consistency, right? So how can I say the same thing 7 different ways? That's what we're looking at here. I know that was a lot. That's probably a lot to unpack. We are going to go to the next slide. We're going to have a little fun example. Sandy, I don't think we named our puppy here, but if does anyone want to name the puppy?
Quick question. So Deb, there was a
Okay.
question before and I didn't ask it.
Okay.
Zelinka was wondering, how do you determine, or what's a good amount to spend on a pre-launch business that's mostly online in terms of marketing? And I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm going to go ahead and let you answer it anyway.
Because you've heard me answer this so many times over the years, Lisa. So your budget is going to be dependent on your business and what you are able to invest. I will say that I believe, again, team, I come from a nonprofit background here. There are a lot of things you can do with no budget. And if you are just starting out, I would look at all of the things you can do and employ. And there are so many free tools out there that you can use. I would look at all of the things that you can do if you don't have budget or feel you have minimal budget starting out and launching your business. Look at all of the things you can do from an earned perspective rather than a paid perspective, and consider starting with an earned campaign and consider it a way to learn about your audience. Get those feedback loops, see how your messages are landing, see what things people are clicking on. Once you have some data and you have some knowledge from the earned media that you're putting out there, and you get a better sense of people really react to this or they don't really react to this. When you have a better sense, then you can refine your messaging, and you're going to see at the very end of this presentation, I'm a big fan of rinse and repeat. You can find some data and get some data that then when you go to set your budget and say, okay, I feel like I'm at a point where not only do I have a way to build a focused marketing plan, but I've actually tested some of my messaging in that marketing plan. I've actually gone after my target audience, and I know a little bit more now. I know a little bit more about, I think I'm being clear about my messaging, but maybe I had to tweak this word or I had to tweak this sentence 3 times in order for my customer to understand what I was trying to say. Once you have some data from an earned perspective, then I encourage you to go in and look at budget and look at what you can do from a financial standpoint. And it is going to be different for every business. You can start small and do more. You can start with what you're comfortable with. And maybe what you're comfortable with is like $250 a month, right? Maybe that's what it is to start off with for a paid campaign. But I would really, really look at, especially if you're just starting off, what to do with your earned media and how to gather data from that before you start investing in a paid campaign. All right, let's go to our little fun puppy example. So Sandy, we didn't name our puppy. Does anyone in the group want to name our puppy?
I saw a name for Score. We should call the puppy Score.
We should call the puppy Score. Okay, so Score. I like that. I like that. So we're gonna work on a very quickly, I promise, because I know we're getting down there on time. I'll go through this fast. This is a quick little content strategy example on how to build one of your content pillars. So this, think about that bluer dot in the middle, puppy training. This is just one content pillar, and one content pillar can be turned into multiple types of assets once you've identified those subtopics. So here we played around with some subtopics of food, safety, and equipment and toys, but puppy training being the one content pillar that these all fall under. And you can do different things. Once you've defined your content pillars, you can think about, okay, how do I address these topics in different formats? So our content pillar example here uses what the business that Sandy introduced earlier in our webinar, which is a dog training program. All of this is completely made up, team. Sandy and I did not go through this together. I have no idea what her husband's target audience is for his business. I have no idea. This is completely made up. It's purely an example. But we look at our business, we're able to talk about our business, we're able to define our target audience because Sandy has taught us how. We're able to address their pain points and identify their pain points as Sandy has taught us. And then we're able to look at ourselves and our expertise and really put pen to paper on what am I an expert at that can address these pain points for this business, right? So defining our expertise. And then, as we spoke about a couple slides ago, aligning our products and services with that expertise and those pain points. So this is just one example of a content pillar. Does anyone have any questions about content pillars? Not yet, anyways. Okay.
No, there is another question, but it
Oh.
doesn't have It's what are examples of ways to engage with the customer before they will buy?
Before they will buy, right? Okay, that's a great question. So engaging with a customer before they buy is storytelling, essentially. That's brand awareness. That's reputation management. So you're showcasing your product and service, right? You're not just telling someone about it, you're showcasing your product or service in action. That's a good way to engage with people. That falls under like a storytelling and brand awareness goal, and is specifically why people do that. And I think we might give you some ideas on that when we start talking about trends in the next section, which I promise I'll go through quickly, Lisa. Let's go to the next slide. Cool. So now that we've talked about defining our target audience, finding them, how to talk to them, a little bit about how to formulate our content strategy as part of our overall marketing plan in 2024. We're going to talk a little bit about 2024 marketing trends. I will say, if you Google this on your own, you're going to find a ton of data out there. They're all going to say the same thing, but differently, as all of our blogs do. So you're going to find different words, you're going to find different verbiage. What we're going to focus on here is 4 really actionable trends. 2 of them are strategies, how you're going to approach something, and 2 of them are tactics and tools, what you're going to employ in your approach. These are 4 really actionable things that small businesses such as yourself can do in 2024 to be on trend and stay on top of things, but also within a realistic mindset of what you're able to do as 1 or 2 people or 3 people, and just starting out with building your small business. I will say, as we talk about these trends, things that are constant in marketing, and Sandy and I really enjoy talking about this together, but things that are constant in marketing: SEO, influencers and micro influencers, leveraging social media as a customer service tool, data and privacy, mobile optimization. Do you know how your website looks and functions both on iPhone and Android? Do you know what your customer experience is? These are all trendy things and trendy words that are constant. So we're going to focus on a few for 2024 that are coming up a lot. Let's move to the next slide. So first up is personalization. Someone asked about in-person experiences earlier. So personalization and in-person experiences, how do you do that in person? How do you do that digitally? Those are 2 different strategies, but at the end of the day, both of those strategies are getting at the idea of personalization. It enhances your customer experience, it helps you drive loyalty, and it helps you cut through the noise of those 10,000 messages a day. So there's a couple tips and tricks on how to do it here, but what you're really getting at here is focusing on creating a relationship and a shared identity with your target customer. So addressing those specific pain points. A good example is astrology marketing. Like, I will tell you, all of Instagram knows that I am a Capricorn. I only get served Capricorn astrology marketing. So this is an example of personalization, right? So if you have a storefront or if you're at an event, this is recognizing your repeat customer. This is your local deli knowing your order. This is on a larger big business scale. This is the chat box that comes up in the corner and says, Laura from Washington just bought this product, right? This is small scale, large scale. All companies are focused on personalization techniques in 2024. So, I want you to think about the different things that you do. And when you build out your content strategy, when you're got your messaging, when you kind of know what you want to talk about, then you can think about, okay, how do I personalize this to go after my target customer in a really custom way? Okay, let's go to the next slide because it dovetails nicely. Localization. So very similar to personalization. Really, I view it as a way to optimize personalization in content marketing. But this demonstrates your understanding of a specific demographics, pain points, and their culture, and creates an opportunity for you to have an even deeper understanding and relationship with your target customer. So is anyone in here, you can drop a little Y if you are part of your local neighborhood Facebook group. Sandy told you I was going to talk about Facebook groups. I love Facebook groups. I think they are a hugely underutilized tool for small businesses. If you're part of your local neighborhood Facebook group, I have asked my friends to become part of the East Nashville Facebook group just for fun because it's highly entertaining. But also, since moving to East Nashville, I have discovered every service that I have needed for my home, I have found in my East Nashville Facebook group page. So do not underestimate the power of localization and community. So this also talks about community events. This also talks about localized SEO keywords. I put an example here of the Native in Nashville account because that is someone who's created a business and has done it based off localization and community tactics. And I promise, guys, we're going to go quickly. Next one, Sandy. Video. So I will let you read here on why it matters. Sandy, it's only a minute. Will the video play? We'll see. Maybe not. That's okay. We'll go through it quickly. Guys, I included a video in here. It is one of the Budweiser's campaigns. Can we hear the sound or no? Probably not.
I don't know if you can, but I'll play it and see.
Okay. I'm not sure. That's okay.
Oh.
We're all probably really familiar with the Budweiser Super Bowl ads. I put the Budweiser ad in here because I thought it was a really good example of storytelling that is not necessarily product focused, and a way to use video to connect with your consumer and bye, Lori. To connect with your consumer and to really create relationship with them. As Sandy mentioned earlier, and I want to make sure I don't get the quote wrong, but as Sandy mentioned earlier, we buy based on emotion and justify with logic. Video is a really good way to emotionally connect with your target customer. Let's go to the next one. Okay, AI, it's not as scary as it looks. It's not as scary as it sounds. It's way more than just Chat GPT. Sandy's going to do a whole workshop on this in January that will deep dive into it. But a couple key takeaways with AI, it's way more than just Chat GPT. There are so many other things that employ AI. But think of it as just another tool in your marketing toolkit. Right? This is just like Grammarly. This is just like MailChimp. This is just like using social media. This is another tool in your toolkit. And so a couple of things, and again, remember, you're going to get this slide, but a couple of things to think about is how to use AI in your business in a way that works for you specifically. I won't go too into depth because I'd give away everything in Sandy's January presentation. And the very last slide is basically, if you tuned out for this entire hour, and we have hit an hour, I'm so sorry. But if you tuned out for this entire hour, that the key points here: define your target audience, research your target audience and get to know them, plan before you talk to your target audience, put together a plan, and then you engage with your target audience, and then you seek to activate your target audience into becoming your customer. And when you feel like you've reached the end, rinse, refine, and repeat. All right. And I don't know if we have time for more questions, but also I am happy to stay on and take any.
So we really don't have a whole lot of questions, but there is one. Doris said the Budweiser ads are great stories, but I'd be curious how much they influence purchasing decisions. I personally love the ads and hate the beer.
Well, I get that wholeheartedly. I think, not every single not every single marketing strategy that you deploy and not every tactic that you employ is going to be aimed at purchasing. There are tools that you can use that are specifically aimed at brand awareness, that are specifically aimed at getting people to know your brand name and who you are. I'll give you an example. I don't buy a lot of ice cream, but I know who Ben and Jerry's is, right? I don't buy a ton of outerwear, but I know who Patagonia is, right? So some of it is generally shaped just to create brand awareness, to create brand identification. And that means when you're talking with your friends, some of you have probably done this with your friends, and said, oh, hey, I'm looking for ABC. I need a really good sweater to go hiking this summer. Well, I don't really buy Patagonia, but from what I see, like Patagonia has a great product and they really care about the environment. So you can influence purchasing decisions just by knowing a brand name. I hope that's helpful.
No, it really wasn't. I think I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of ads for Publix. Have you seen those ads where they just have people making food together, or it's just all, you don't really even know what it's about, but then at the end it's Publix, but you know that you just got this great like feeling of well-being and you're happy at the end. And
Publix is
so
really good
that's just
at
a really good way of building the brand.
Yeah, building the brand, and Publix is very focused on family, very clearly. Any commercial that you see for Publix is very, very focused on family. With the Budweiser commercials, with Publix, think about any commercial you see. I had an example in here I didn't get to, the ASPCA commercials with Sarah McLachlan. The common denominator of all of these tools and examples that we're talking about is they know their target audience. They know exactly who they're going after. That Budweiser commercial knows exactly who they're going after. We talk about the foundations of America. They show military family and the American flag in that commercial. They know exactly who their target audience is. Cool. Anyone else? Well, thanks for letting Sandy and I chat with y'all today.
So we do, so let me just say this. We've had a couple of people who have been on and said, wow, this has been great. I feel like I'm in a college class though. And so I've said, well, don't worry, we can help you one-on-one. Deb's available all weekend. No, I'm just kidding. Sandy, you want to join me on that one? No, anyway, if you do not have a mentor and you are interested in signing up for a mentor, we would love to hear from you. You just go to score.org/Nashville and you get on and you can sign up for mentoring and just have some specifics about what you need help with. And you can even mention this particular event, and then we can assign you somebody that will really be able to help. And Dev is a subject matter expert, obviously expert. So is Sandy. Are you subject matter expert as well? Okay, so So if you get assigned to me, for example, the first thing I do is call those guys up and say, hey, when are you available? Let's go. So we would be able to co-mentor and help you on a multitude of levels. So
And just to piggyback on that, so this is just a 1 hour, so it's very high level, but we have the workshops that go deeper into these areas. So there's a market research 101 workshop. I go and do about product development one. I do a pricing workshop. There's branding workshops. There's marketing workshops. So they go deeper into the subject and can be more interactive, and where this is just kind of have to stay high level, and we can't get into all the tactics and specifics, but check out the workshops and they're very reasonably priced.
absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. This was an excellent one. I'm hoping that maybe we can convince you to do it again first quarter. I mean, January, February, March. I haven't looked at schedule yet, but that would be awesome. A lot of
Sure.
very positive feedback. So I really appreciate you guys coming. Thank everybody for coming to this event today. We really appreciate it. We've got a lot of, as Sandy said, we've got a lot of other educational opportunities, and we would love to see you again. And if you're interested in any kind of one-on-one, join us, please. Plus, last shameless plug, please go to our website. That's score.org/Nashville. And in January, we're starting again with group mentoring. It's called Score Connect Live. We did it in October, and it was phenomenally good. Bunch of mentors were there. A lot of people came, asked questions. We finally had to kick people out, but it was great. So please sign up for that as well. Without further ado, happy holidays. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Dev. It was awesome.
Thanks.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Happy